Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Aisyah and also with my partner Maulin Shofi Salsabila. Today, me and my partner are going to present a study titled Survey of the Literature, Reading Habits and Preference of Adolescents, a study of a public school in India. So, this study conducted by Fayaz Ahmad Lawan and Refhat Unnisa Shah in 2017. So, the relevance to our research interests. So, the study is important because understanding students' reading habits can help educators design more effectively reading programs in ELT classroom. So, by knowing what genre students prefer and how they select books, we can create reading material that align with their interests. And then the research problem and objective. So, the study addresses a problem of declining reading habits among adolescents and shift in their genre preference. This study had three key objectives. The first one is to investigate adolescents' reading habits and preference. The second one is to identify the most preferred genre among boys and girls. The third one is to explore the promotional tactics used by authors to attract young readers. For the research methodology, the research design and participants is to achieve its objective. This study used a quantitative survey-based design. The researcher collected data from 150 students in grade 11 and 12, age 14 to 16 at Delhi Public School, Srinagar, India. The data collection method was structured questionnaire survey. And then for the evaluation of methodology, there are strengths and weaknesses. For the strengths, a large sample size that enhance reliability. And then the second one, systematic sampling that ensures diverse representation. And then the last one is the questionnaire formats that allows for easy data collection and analysis. Not only strength, the study also have several weaknesses. The first one, the study is limited to one school, so it making it difficult to generalize the finding. And then the second one is self-reported data that may include bias. Next, we are going to the key finding. So for the key finding, the study have four different sections. The first one is reading habits. The second one is the literature preference. The third one is author's influence. And the last one is the author's promotional tactics. So for the reading habits, 91% of students read for less than 3 hours for daily, while only 9% read for more than 3 hours. 67% identity as frequent readers and 33% as occasional readers. Then prefer reading location, 64% at home, 20% in the library, 11% in the classroom. And the next, 71% prefer printed books over digital formats. And then for the genre preference, 47% of students prefer fiction, 32% non-fiction, and 21% both. So, and then next is girl prefer fiction over boys, while boys prefer non-fiction over girls. And then next is the most popular fiction genre is crime detective stories. It's reached 31%, followed by realistic teen fiction 21%. And then the most preferred non-fiction genre is self-help books, 43%, followed by biography, 33%. And then for the author's preference or author's influence, 54% reads books by both Indian and foreign author, while 29% preferred foreign author. And then the promotional tactic. This is such a romantic language, aggression, and slang influence student book choice. So the survey revealed varied perception regarding authors' promotional tactics, while a significant portion disagree that aggression and violence are used. A notable minority, particularly girls, agree. Similarly, romantic language was seen as a promotional tool by a substantial group, with boys slightly more inclined to agree. In contrast, the majority dismissed the use of explicit sexual content for attracting readers. However, a significant portion acknowledged the use of slang and crude language, with girls more likely to agree than boys. Overall, the data illustrated differing opinions on the prevalence and effectiveness of this tactic. with some gender-based variation. Okay, and then next is how is it can give contribution to ELT research. So the first one is this study is enhancing reading material selection, and then the second one is addressing gender differences in reading engagement. The third one is developing critical literacy and analytical skill. The last one is incorporating culturally relevant and diverse author. Okay, then next the material will be delivered by Maulin, Shofi, Salsabila.
Okay, the next slide is gaps in study. So every research study has some limitation, and this one is no exception. Below are the key gaps in the study and why addressing them would improve the findings. The first one is limited sample size and location bias. It's because this study is based on data from 150 students from a single school or Delhi Public School, Srinagar, which limits the generalizability of the findings. A more diverse sample across different schools, regions, and socio-economic backgrounds would provide a broader perspective. Why is this a problem? It's because the students in rural and urban areas may have different reading habits due to their access to books, libraries, and the internet. Then, students from different socio-economic backgrounds may have varying preferences. Wealthier students might read more international books, while others may prefer locally available text. Then the school with different curriculums may emphasize reading in different ways, which would affect students' habits in reading. Then the second is lack of longitudinal data. This study captures reading habits at a single point in time. A longitudinal study would help in understanding how reading preferences evolve over the time. Why is this a problem? Because the study does not show how students' reading habits develop over the years. Then without tracking changes over the time, we cannot understand whether reading habits improve or decline as students grow. Then trends like the impact of digital reading such as ebooks, audiobooks, social media, and on long-term habits remain unexplored. The third gap is no correlation between readings and academic performance. While the study examines reading habits, it does not analyze how these habits impact academic performance, critical thinking, or literacy skills. Why is this a problem? Because we don't know if students who read more perform better in subjects like English, history, or even science. Then it does not explore whether reading certain types of books, such as fiction and non-fiction, would improve comprehension, writing skills, or vocabulary of the students. Then there is no connection made between reading habits and other academic skills like problem solving or analytical thinking. The fourth gap is overemphasis on gender differences. Although gender differences are explored, other demographic variables like economic background, parental education, and exposure to technology are not sufficiently examined. Because why is this a problem? Because parental influences, such as those students whose parents read books at home, might develop stronger reading habits regardless of gender. Then about the economic backgrounds, such as students from wealthier families may have access to more books, libraries, and digital resources. Then the technology use, as some students may prefer reading digital content like blogs or online articles rather than printed books. And then the language preference is because some students might prefer reading in their native language rather than English, which could impact their engagement with ELT materials. Next, we're going to talk about the similar studies like these Indian studies. So the research on reading habit has been conducted in different parts of the world, and comparing these studies help us understand how reading preferences change based on culture, technology, and education system. The first study is from Clark and Foster 2005. It's about the UK study on reading habits. The finding is that they found that girls read more frequently than boys, and students prefer fictions over nonfiction. The comparison is that similar to the Indian study in terms of gender preferences, about girls read more than boys, but was conducted on a national scale, or we can say they surveyed students from across the country, making it more representative on a national trend. While the Indian study, on the other hand, only limited on one school, so the results might not apply to all Indian students. So the second study is from Hastings and Henry 2006. It's about digital reading in the US. So findings, they find that students are increasingly turning to digital content rather than traditional books, which such as e-books, blogs, online articles, and social media. While the Indian study underexplores the role of digital reading, while the US study indicates a shift away from print. So in here, the US study shows that in the US, it shows that the students are shifting from printed books to digital readings, while the Indian one, the printed books are still dominant rather than the digital ones. That is why the Indian one does not explore the impact of digital reading habits, which this study of Hastings and Henry does. The third study is from Tella and Akande from 2007. It's about reading habits in Nigeria. Here, the findings is the students primarily read for academic purposes rather than pleasure. And the comparison is that the contrast with Indian study, where fiction is the dominant choice. So here, the Indian truly shows that the students enjoy reading fiction, while Nigerian students focus more on academic reading. These differences may be due to the cultural and educational influences. Perhaps Indian students have more encouragement to read for fun, while Nigerian students focus on reading to succeed in school. Next, we're going to talk about the improvement or alternative research methods that these researchers may apply in their research or study. So, by including students from multiple schools across the different socio-economic backgrounds, urban and rural settings, we can find the differences and the diversity. And because the more larger and more diverse sample would reduce bias and give a clearer picture of reading habits across a different student group. And then increase sample size from 150 to at least 500 and 1000. 1,000, yeah, for better generalizability. So just like the first one is to make it more diverse so that we can generalize, so we can make it a bit more, so we can generalize it. Okay, the second is longitudinal study approach. So we're conducting a survey, so we have to conduct a survey study over multiple years to see how reading habits evolve. So instead of one-time survey, Researchers should track students over multiple years to see how their reading preferences changes, and then track students from middle school to high school to observe changes in reading interest, because by following the students we can identify shifts in their reading habits as they grow older, in their teenage years, and then shift into the adulthood or something. Yes. Okay, why? Because long-term study would show us whether students will continue their reading habits into adulthood, or if their preferences change due to academic pressure, social influence, or technology use. Next is the third improvement, such as inclusion of academic correlations. It is by measuring how different reading habits correlate with academic performance in language, critical thinking, and writing skills. So, so this study should analyze whether reading habits affect academic performance in areas such as language skills, critical thinking abilities, writing skills, and these researchers could compare high achieving students' reading habits with those who struggle academically to see if reading has a different impact on school performance. Why? Because this would provide practical insight for teachers and educators to encourage reading as a tool for academic success. The fourth is analysis of cultural and psychological factors. So, to investigate how cultural influences shape reading preferences, then to assess the physiological impact of different genres on adolescent behavior and emotion. Okay, so we can see how the genres of students that they like to read could impact their mind. So, for example, in a crime fiction, where we can perhaps conduct research whether it would increase their interest in mystery solving or not, or maybe in their romance, whether it could influence their emotional development, and whether self-help books impact their confidence and motivation. This would help educators select appropriate reading materials that benefit students both in academically and emotionally. The last one is the connection to our research. So throughout this study, we gain additional information that reading preferences can help design ELT materials, since students prefer fiction over nonfiction. So which could incorporate more fictional narrative to engage to learners, because as we can see that students prefer fiction and over nonfiction, which means that if we incorporate more fictional stories to make learning fun and engaging instead of using only textbooks, teachers can include short stories, novels, and fictional dialogues to teach vocabulary, grammar, and comprehension. Other than that, from this research, most students like printed forms more than digital one. So we will keep in mind that students might like digital form better, so we will have incorporate a mixed form between printed and digital, so that all students can have uh, their engagement, their fun in learning English, and also they will feel more comfortable in their preferred formats. And do we agree with this research? Would you agree with that students' genre preference, since it's more engaging for them? For example, if a student preferred fiction, such as girls, while the boys prefer nonfiction, we can also try to incorporate both of them at the same time, perhaps in the same setting, or maybe we can teach them to focus on one genre to another. Moreover, printed books felt easier for them because it requires no technology or tools to use. That is all from our presentation. We apologize if there are any mistakes. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.